Welcome to the To Fight For podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Heather. We're offering you a seat at our table to join our conversations, which center on healing through reimagining hospitality in relationships. This season, we are focusing on building and maintaining authentic, healthy friendships.
Our friendship has been through the ringer, but now it's stronger than ever because we chose to fight for it. Our hope is to inspire you to fight for yours.
Hey, everyone.
Hi. How's everybody doing?
We have special guests with us today.
We do have two. Not just one, we have two special guests.
I think we should let them introduce one another.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Okay. To the person who is sitting next to Jamie, would you please introduce the person who is sitting next to me as best as you can? What do you know about this person? How do you know this person?
For the very first time on To Fight For, everyone has the pleasure of hearing Mr. Eric Heaton, the wonderful farming phenom husband of the very wonderful Heather Heaton. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Josh. That was very kind of you. Very nice introduction. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. And across from me, you've heard him. He's the legend. He is the master of the yard gnomes. And I'll tell you what, you can't find a greener yard around. My very great friend, Josh Taylor.
Thanks, Eric.
Wow, that is some intro.
That is it. Yeah.
Jamie and I are like dying over here.
We're over here just cracking up. Oh, man.
So we asked our hubbies to join us for this evening's conversation because tonight we are going to be emphasizing the importance of brothers and sisters, the importance of male and female relationships, and how brotherhood and sisterhood matters. How it's important, I think, to our vitality and our growth as human beings. I cannot imagine only having female friends. I need male friends.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Having only female friends.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have been able to survive my life, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Truth.
Yeah. Because as you've heard on some of our other podcasts, we've had male friendships. And so we wanted to bring them on. We want to talk about the psychology of it and why it's important. Heather's going to talk about it from a biblical perspective. And a little teaser here, we're going to burst the bubble. You can have an opposite sex friendship.
A good, healthy one.
A good, healthy one. It's possible.
Yeah. And I think I want to start with the biblical perspective and have that in the back of our mind as we have this conversation tonight. So what I'd like to start with is Paul's teaching. When he wrote his letter to the Roman church, he's writing to a divided church. They're trying to figure out how to work together with differing viewpoints. And in Romans chapter 12, verse 10, as Paul is instructing the church on how to love one another, he uses the phrase, love one another with brotherly love. So he is indicating here a familial dynamic between brothers and sisters in Christ. And we see in Jesus' last words from the cross that he redefines family. He is instructing Mary and his disciple John to love one another as mother and son. Jesus, what he shows us throughout his life, he meets in the home of Mary and Martha. There's no indication that there were any other men present. He has relationships with both men and women. Jesus operated within the safety of the brother-sister bond. So even from an outside perspective, Jesus was acting outside of cultural norms, but from the perspective of a unified family and the body of Christ, what he's modeling is a safety with members of the opposite sex. And he models this for us. So when we start looking at our current modern day relationships between men and women, this has gotten skewed quite a bit in the church. And I'd like to refer to the Billy Graham rule I'm not going to knock Billy Graham, but this rule, which stems from his Modesto Manifesto, which is basically this belief that leadership in the church should not be alone with members of the opposite sex. So for a meeting, the door should be left open. The male pastor shouldn't drive a female church member home, alone. This kind of thing. It's a rule that's meant to protect people, mainly the leaders, from being accused of sexual harassment or sexual misconduct. But what it has done over time is it has sexualized the male-female relationship in a way where it's almost become this fear or this uncomfortable feeling for men and women to be alone with one another when they believe that the relationship is a sexualized thing, rather than looking at a male-female relationship through the lens of brotherhood and sisterhood. We're saying, oh, if I'm alone with somebody, then something bad can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to try to shift that perspective.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the anxiety that creates. So that right there is telling me I should never be alone with a male that's not my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Because I should be worried.
Right. I'm wondering too, and I'd like to ask the guy's perspective here, because I think there are times when we know that someone doesn't have good boundaries in place, that there is actually, or there can be a threat present if you don't know your own boundaries. So I'm curious too, our husbands, have you ever been in a situation with a member of the opposite sex and you have felt unsafe?
I know for me, there's one very, very specific scenario that comes to mind that created a lot of anxiety and changed my whole perspective on the male-female relationship. And luckily it was when I was young. We were in college. We went to a hockey game and happened to be a scenario where I learned a lot about myself.
Gosh, yes, the hockey game story. Here we go, everybody. Listen up, because it's really great when Josh tells it.
Well, it really helped form in my mind what a male-female relationship probably should be, because at the time I was probably at a point where I was sexualizing that relationship between male and female, and there happened to be a girl sitting behind us that I can't even tell you today if she was pretty or not, because it's been burned into my brain as like a trauma response to not remember anything about her probably. But apparently, not apparently, I did turn around and look at her at least 3, 4, 5 times. And at one point, my lovely wife, girlfriend at the time, announced to the whole group they were with that she was going to remove an appendage, of which I very, very like to have. And so at that moment, embarrassment definitely took over. But I think more than that, I realized in myself that I was very much looking as women, objectifying them. And it put this entire shift in my mind that it doesn't have to be that way, that we don't have to sexualize women, and we shouldn't, because that's not what the Bible tells us. Fortunately, that is what society tells us, I think. But to reframe that and to just see people for who they are, being able to get different perspectives from them, because God made us differently on purpose.
Yeah. I will remember this story forever. And it wasn't because the girl was beautiful. She was beautiful. I remember. Had Josh looked at her once, no problem. Had he looked at her twice, I probably also would have been like, okay, that's okay. But when you continuously turned around, that's when I was like, oh, hell no, we ain't going to do this. And then I announced to the entire hockey stadium, probably could hear me yell at him. But
what did you say? Because that part was left out of the story. And I like that part of the story.
Yeah, I said I was going to cut his penis off.
If
he turned around and looked at her one more time, and I can tell you I did not say penis, but I said it very loud for our entire hockey section to hear. And then we were there with all guys. I was the only female. It was interesting. All of the other guys that we were with probably were like, oh, damn.
So I like that example because I think it paints a picture of the way, Josh, that you were viewing women, but it also shows how that impacted your wife. And you weren't even verbally discussing your wife. Your wife was simply observing your behavior, and she had a response to that. She was hurt by that. And I think that's an important part here to understand is that moment changed you in what you were saying because it helped you realize that you can actually view women differently. And then what you're saying is that shaped, and this is a question for you, but that shaped the way then that you were able to interact with other women on a level of a friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. Going through high school and early college, I had a real fear and anxiety around women and being able to create close relationships. And I did see it that there was this sexual undertone to it. And so it was hard for me to see a scenario where I could truly like develop a friendship and where the value in that would be, with someone of opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, it really opened my eyes to the fact that one, it had, it had hurt Jamie a lot, for one, but for two, that just took a total mind shift for me because we really have to be cognizant of owning our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, that was something where when I saw women, I had to be very intentional for years to own my thoughts and to be very intentional about when I saw someone, whether they were beautiful or not to think around the physical necessarily, but to try and close that part off and really open, my eyes and mind to the possibility of a person for what they speak and what they believe and who they are. That was definitely a moment where owning my thoughts was probably the biggest shift that I had.
Yeah, Josh, I can really relate to what you're saying. I had a similar experience earlier on in my life as well. And it just took a lot of work to get to where I am now, and a lot of talking with God and just letting Him work in my life.
I wonder, and this is a question for both Eric and Josh, because since all of us sitting here recording, we have 6 boys between the two of us. What is it like growing up as a male and the whole sexuality and objectifying women?
I just think there's a lot of pressure there. And you think about it so much more today, maybe as when we grew up with just televisions and a few channels. I mean, now you can get it anywhere. And I think it's a conversation that I probably need to be having more with my boys in terms of objectifying women and even pornography that's out there or anything that you can get into that just really will damage your view of women or sexuality.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what's interesting is our oldest son, he's a freshman, and he has over the years, he's actually had girls that he's had friendships with. And it's interesting because as a father, for some reason, I guess those friendships actually excited me more to see him being friends with girls because of getting a different perspective and knowing that, okay, puberty's coming. And yeah, as a teenager, like it's a real thing. Like literally the only thing you can think about is sex. Like you don't have control of it. I mean, every kid's probably a little bit different, but there is that phase where those hormones are just going freaking crazy. And every girl you see is like, oh, there's another girl. Oh, there's another girl. Oh, wow, she got boobs. When did that happen? Oh,
Like,
I mean,
even imagining.
it's, I mean, am I wrong here, Eric?
No, you're not wrong.
This is like, it's crazy. So to see like, him and he has, girls that he talks to at school and can have conversations, just, I like to see that. And I want, as a parent, to nurture those things because they're in such a hard time. And I think that was kind of back to the story I was talking about. I was still living in kind of that hormonal state where you talk about boys lose their brain and ability to basically make good choices at like 14, 15 until 20 something. So I'm going to claim that was the problem when I was at the hockey game, is that I had no brain. But yeah, it is legit. It's tough to be a teenage boy.
Well, I do know that as we talk about what we are told not to do, it's rarely supplicated with what to do. So there's been a lack of portraying women as sisters in the church. So if that's a message that's being communicated, that is one way. Instead of even just saying, don't look at pornography or recognize that you are objectifying women in the way that you speak or in the way that you interact with your friends, that if we are being taught this is a good, healthy, safe relationship to enjoy your brother or enjoy your sister. I have a brother that lives in Japan, and I don't see him very often. And whenever I do, I'm linking arms with him and putting my head on his shoulder. Just want to be close to him. He's so far away. So when I'm close to him, I physically want to be close to him. And I was talking to Eric prior to this podcast, and I said, I would feel totally comfortable going up and linking arms with Josh and putting my head on his shoulder.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you've done that before.
Yeah. But that's how I view my brother, my relationship with my brother. That is a brotherly physical action that I do. That means I feel safe here. There's nothing sexual about it. It is purely, I feel close to you and I value the relationship that I have with you. And I don't have that kind of relationship with very many men at all. Probably my brother and Josh and maybe one other male. But that is a way that I express I feel safe, that this is a relationship that is God honoring. And I can rest in that and have peace in that. And so as we talk about what not to do or the ways that we have been taught this, this Billy Graham rule or this, let's not be alone with members of the opposite sex. I think we wanted to emphasize one, the importance and the value of the relationship that we have as a foursome, as two couples.
Yeah.
But also the interdynamics of that between Jamie and Eric and me and Josh. I think we wanted to talk about our couple stories that were really profound in a sense where they really enabled growth and healing to happen in our relationships, but also the sacredness of this brother sisterhood relationship that we have. So it was kind of funny, actually. Jamie was over a couple days ago and we were talking about what we wanted to talk about in this podcast. And she asked me, what are some stories that we should share? And I came up with 2 stories right off the top of my head. I said, I think these are pretty good stories we should share. And then Eric walked in the door and I said, what stories come to your mind? And right off the bat, he listed the same 2 stories. Well, Josh showed up tonight to do the podcast and I said, Josh, what's the first story that comes to mind that you want to share? And he listed the same first story. So we're going to start with that one.
Yeah, we are. Do you guys want to talk about it? You want me to introduce it? What do you want to do here, gentlemen?
I'd like to hear Eric kick it off and let's see his perspective on this story.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a little teaser. The story of Ojai.
Yes.
Yes, Ojai. So we had just embarked on a vacation to California with our boys, Josh and Jamie's oldest boy and our middle son, and we were taking them to soccer camp, and we thought that we could do a little mini vacation while they were at soccer camp. So we were venturing up and down the coastline of California, and we stumbled upon a little village named Ojai.
It's in the desert.
In the desert, and it was dry and hot.
And I booked an amazing place that had all kinds of ants everywhere that everybody loved.
It was not amazing. I slept with ants and had bites the next morning. It was horrible.
It was cool.
It was a tiny house. It was really, really cute. And I have some really awesome pictures of
it. It was like a commune of people.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I mean, that part of it was.
We didn't have
really
ants in
cool.
our bed. The ants were just in your bed.
Yeah,
so sorry about that. But we enjoyed our
Ants in our
stay.
pants.
Yeah.
So I'm a little unclear as to how we got on the topic of conversation, but we had gone out to dinner that night in Ojai, and we were sitting around a table, the 4 of us, and I don't know, life started happening.
I remember exactly how that conversation happened.
I'm like, she's going to fill in the pieces, everybody. Don't you worry.
So I like, and I'm known for this, but asking the deep, pensive, thoughtful kind of questions. So when there's a lull in conversation, I'm going to dive right in.
Yes.
I can see it coming now. And it's just like, uh-oh, here it comes.
If you ever go out to dinner with her, if you just keep talking, she probably won't ask the question. But if there's any lull in conversation and everyone's taking a drink of their wine, she'll be like, so everybody, what about this?
And then I'll get the deer in the headlights, but then everybody will answer and it ends up being a really good conversation.
It does. It always ends up being good conversation. But at first, everybody's always like, well, we're not anymore because we know you well enough. But sometimes people are like,
Yeah, that's deeply personal. But the deeply personal question I asked that night was, let's go around the table and share the things that we really admire about everyone. So we basically took a turn in the hot seat and we all went around the table for each person and each said what we really admired about the person.
And I think what is important to share here too is we were still building our friendship number 2.
Right.
So this is the first vacation we had taken since friendship number 2.
I think I was a little nervous about this vacation.
I was nervous about this vacation.
Our kids both played soccer, so that was the thing that brought us together. But I remember being like, okay, so we just walked through stuff and now we're traveling together.
And now the 4 of us are going to be together. So we're going to drop our kids off. And then we have a week in California with one rental car. So it's not like we could be like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. See you in a little bit. No, we had like everything together.
I was not nervous at all, and I was very excited.
My wife also never remembers things correctly. We had 2 rental cars because they had a convertible and we didn't. I remember that.
Oh, shoot.
We did have the convertible.
We did because we all couldn't fit in one.
Leave it to Josh to call you out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was the convertible. That's what I remember. I was jealous. I'm not going to lie.
Ford Mustang, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so back to the table. Josh, what do you remember next?
Oh, man. I remember, I don't know that I remember exactly, specifically everything we were talking about each other, but I remember the experience being one that was very heart-filling. And what it did is it gave me an opportunity to speak into, I think, the lives of people, like you said, rebuilding relationships, but already had a love for both of you and obviously my wife. And it was a really cool space to be able to strengthen that bond. And we were talking about the brother-sister bond. And I think that was a moment where we really could open up to each other. It was raw and like we were just out there and we were pushing each other. We weren't letting each other get off with like simple like, oh, you're nice and you're cool. And it was, we kept probing. And in that, I think we really exposed ourselves and left each other, left that space to be able to really say like, hey, you're my brother, you're my sister, and this is what's so great about you. And I thought that even went to the point where we even flipped the script and started talking about something we wanted to like really improve on or do, better for the next year, because it was in July or something like that. And like, what do we want to do for the next, the rest of the year to really grow? And I just remember it being this is creating this bond. I felt that, I felt that it wasn't just, a bunch of guys hanging out or a bunch of girls hanging out. It was just people. And I felt that like that dynamic of the brother, sister, Eric, my brother, you, my sister. And even like as my wife, I felt like her as like a sister in Christ at the same time too. And yeah, it really stuck with me.
I think something that you said that I want to point out is there was intimacy with another female that was not me, and it wasn't sexual, and there was no jealousy, and there was no feelings of being uncomfortable that Josh was saying things to Heather.
Yeah, we're sitting at the table. Josh, out of everybody, I remember what I said to you. I don't remember what I said to Jamie, and I don't remember what I said to Eric, but I remember saying to you that one of the things that I valued about you was your ability to make eye contact with me, because so often I experienced men either dismissing me in group conversations, it's like I wasn't even there, or men feeling I'm an empath. So I can tell when a man feels uncomfortable around me. I can read the room. And I remember telling Josh that I felt safe around him because he made eye contact with me, engaged with me. He treated me like a mutual, like a peer. I was his equal. There wasn't any sort of hierarchy. And that made me feel safe. I could be real and vulnerable. And I so rarely felt that around another man besides my husband. So I remember communicating that to you.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Eric, we just had that moment again. I'm like looking at Josh and I'm like, remember that moment? Yeah. And like,
remember that moment?
I do.
Yeah. Anything you want to add there, buddy?
Yeah, for the life of me, I can't remember what I said about you, but I don't know. I have not felt close to another female like yourself, and there is a piece about it, I will say, and There's no pressure or anything like that. I remember coming over to your house once and we just chatted.
We totally
It
hung
was
out
great.
alone.
We did.
We did.
But I mean, it
We
doesn't
had a
happen often.
beer. No, it
We did.
doesn't happen often. But we did hang out alone, had a beer, and just like, we just shot the shit and just talked.
Yeah. And it was great.
It was great. Yeah.
You guys text together. We'll text every once in a while. And there's just, it's not something I even think about. Jamie might see something and is like, oh, who's that? Oh, Eric's texting me. Okay, cool. When you get to that point where you realize that that's what that relationship is, and we talked about nerves and anxiety, it just melts away because there is no undertone. It's this true bond that is created. I do feel like Eric and Jamie are brother and sister. And so my sister's 5.5 years older than me. So we have a pretty good relationship, but not very close. And she moved, away. And so I've always longed for like that really close person I can talk to when I need to, that female perspective that just sometimes you really need. That's what I love. And that's where it's important in life to have that, because if you don't have that, you're just hearing the male perspective. And we all know, like on our side of the pew or whatever, guys are stupid most of the time. So you're just getting advice from another stupid guy.
Yeah. Well, and I like too what you were talking about, that, and I think this works really well in our couple dynamic that we have, is there's an extra layer of accountability. And I actually want to let Jamie and Eric share a story that really focuses on that.
I'm going to let Eric share the story, but before Eric shares the story, I just want to share my perspective of Ojai really quick. And I think it was magical. But for those of you who don't like to get compliments, that would be me. It was incredibly uncomfortable in the beginning, and I was bawling my eyes out.
We were all crying.
But I didn't get a whole lot of compliments growing up. So people complimenting me is not normal. So I can't tell you anything that any of you said to me, but I can remember somatically exactly how I felt that entire time in my body. And it was very uncomfortable. But then the uncomfortability went away, and then I was able to absorb and listen to what everyone was saying. And it was magical because it created bonds with all of you that were not there before. It strengthened them. But it also personally, for me, made me realize sometimes I need to just shut up, take the compliment, and just like sit with it.
I think what was really cool too is there was no jealousy. I felt no jealousy hearing Eric compliment you. I compliment another female complimenting my wife. That wasn't even a thought that entered in my mind. It was just this, wow, I see that in her too. That's so cool that, somebody else can.
Yeah, it was almost more of a freedom, really. I mean, it felt pretty wholesome and genuine,
Yeah.
So, Eric,
Jamie,
you know what story we're going to talk about here?
I think I know what story we're going to talk about, so I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce it.
So, this was in friendship number 2. And I think we have shared our ice cream incident. Yes, Heather?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did. So it was shortly after the ice cream incident where I would not make eye contact with Heather, and I pretended like she was not there, even though she was clearly having a conversation with me and everyone else I was there with. And it was shortly after that. And we were at a wedding, and Eric, you approached me and you were like, hey, Jamie, you want to go upstairs and grab a cocktail real quick? And I thought, yeah, sure. And then this is what happened.
So I had asked Jamie upstairs to have a drink at the bar, thinking to myself that I was going to have a conversation with her about my wife and hers relationship. I just felt like I had to interject.
So upstairs, the conversation was it wasn't about the ice cream incident, but it was about how Heather was feeling. You also were holding me accountable for my behavior at the ice cream incident and just saying like, Heather is very upset and I'm going to stick up for my wife and I want to hold you accountable for your behavior. And I can't even remember all the exact words that you said, But I do remember, because this is what happens with me, I remember the feelings all the time. Really bad at remembering words. So if you ever say anything horribly mean to me, probably I'm not going to remember it, but I will remember the feeling.
This is why Jamie and I get along so well, because we cannot remember stories accurately.
That's what I was just going to say. You guys remember how you feel, but did we actually talk, or did we just look at each other?
That's why we have me, because I'm the storyteller. So I'm here during edits and takes, like, okay, here's the story. Just say this.
Yes, you are the sage.
Yes. So I can't tell you the words that he said, but he did hold me accountable for my behavior and said, Heather is longing to have this friendship, but you also have to be accountable for your own behavior, and you both need to be communicating to each other. I do know that he said those words to me. It wasn't uncomfortable. I was not uncomfortable. In fact, I was actually less uncomfortable the fact that you, Eric, was holding me accountable and calling me in, because I know you guys have listened to the podcast, but we're not calling people out. We're calling them into a conversation, right, about behavior and emotions. So you calling me in was not uncomfortable. It's actually more uncomfortable for me when a female does it than when a male does it.
Oh, that's interesting. But I might be able to agree with you on that.
Well, I think both of you to some degree. I think Jamie more, though. Growing up, you had a lot of male relationships. So I think that's what you were used to.
Yeah.
And, you had some strong male relationships, obviously, with your brother, for sure. So that totally makes sense. But what was interesting is what was going on at the same time at the same wedding with Heather and I.
Yeah. So I think, we were downstairs dancing, me and Josh, with a whole bunch of other people. And at one point, we're like, where are our spouses?
Yeah.
And so I think the two of us were like, well, they're both missing, so they must be together.
Because we didn't say, oh, hey, peace out, we're going to go upstairs. We just were like, peace out, nothing. Nothing was spoken.
And I was surprised, because anybody that's seen me dance knows you want to stick around and dance, because I'm like a super dancer. So it was shocking that Eric had taken that opportunity and left. But
I wasn't feeling the dance moves that night.
You really can do a mean lawnmower.
Oh, sarcasm right there, everybody. Sarcasm from my husband.
So Josh and I decided to go up to the bar to see if our spouses were up there. And sure enough, we find them. We go up there. They don't even turn around. They keep their backs to us. They're in a deep conversation.
Yeah, you could tell there's some DC going on.
Yes. By this point, I don't even think again, Eric and I are so great at remembering specific words, but I'm pretty sure we weren't even talking about Heather and I anymore. And we were talking about your and I's relationship at this point.
That could be.
Yeah. And
you remember that?
I do remember we talked about your and I's relationship, because I doubt that I said it was fine. You asked me if I was uncomfortable, and I was like, no, not really. And then we ended up talking about your and I's relationship. And about that time or later, then Heather and Josh walked up, and we did not even acknowledge that they were there, because we were
there was
so
no
deep in
acknowledgement.
conversation.
I remember that and being like, come on. Like, I am tired of getting blown off by Jamie Taylor.
Oh, I'm married to her. Get used to it. We go to parties and it's like, oh, I'll see you in 2 hours.
2 hours.
So then Josh and I are standing there and we're looking at each other like, okay, well, maybe we should talk about something important and deep. And then I'm pretty sure you and I were crying within 5 minutes. We were just like, I love you. You're so great. We just love you. Like, we're good friends.
I'm pretty sure we even, I again, I kind of remember this somatic response too, but bits and pieces. I'm pretty sure that the ice cream came up a little bit, the incident. And I love to speak for my wife. So I think in that moment, I was just like, yeah, it's this fear she had of, you having a friendship with someone else and her just like wanting to then recluse and go back to old habits that she had grown out of. And I was like, I'm not letting that happen. You're like, I'm not letting that happen. And yeah, it was kind of like, stepbrothers moment where we're just, I remember a lot of tears and just like, you're my sister, you're my brother. Probably not exact, but that's very much how it felt. And yeah, that is definitely some crying that was going on there.
Yeah. But I think the beauty of it overall is that we could be honest and real with one another and know that we were safe to do so.
Absolutely.
I don't know what it looked like to everybody else in the bar. Like you got two different couples like mishmashed and they're all crying. Well, you two weren't crying, but we were crying. What is happening with that group of four over there?
I mean, I cried at Doritos commercial, so.
Oh, yes. Josh is a crier, everybody. So if you ever go watch a movie with him, be prepared. What did you just say? I lost it now.
Don't know what everyone else was thinking in the bar.
Yeah. And that's really interesting because we live in a small town. Many people know the four of us. And I'm at the bar with Eric, not giving two craps about what anybody else thought because I don't care what anyone else thinks. You want to think what you want to think? I don't know. I'm sitting here having a conversation with my brother. I don't care what you think. It's an innocent conversation.
When you go back to the Bible, think about what were people thinking when Jesus was sitting with prostitutes? If we're going to emulate what Jesus did, we're going to sit with people and not care what other people think because we know in our heart like what that is about, creating those relationships. And I think that's where you have to break that stigma because, males and females should have relationships.
Yeah. And I feel like it's important to say that boundaries are always going to be present in any relationship. Boundaries are always going to be present. I have boundaries with my husband. So when we talk about having this safety within our network of four, or if I'm having a conversation with Josh, we still are exercising God-honoring boundaries with one another, where I'm not going to ever allow Josh to just come to me and bash Jamie and be like, hold up here. Like, if you're in a difficult place in your marriage, let's talk about that, but let's talk about your role in it. And let's talk about how we can view it and how we can work through that. I'm going to offer that level of accountability. And Jamie's going to offer that to Eric. So we're also protecting one another, and we are creating a safe place where everybody is safe in the relationship. And I think the Billy Graham rule, it may have served a purpose in a sense where it's saying, look, boundaries are important, but somewhere, like pretty much everything that exists under the sun, it can be misused, and it became something. Basically, it took on a life of its own and really separated brothers and sisters from having these God-honoring relationships with one another. So we're not talking about a lack of boundaries in these relationships. Boundaries should always be present, and that might look different in your marriage if you have a history of unfaithfulness, or boundaries have already been skewed in the past for one partner or the other. Every boundary and what that looks like for a couple is, might look different from person to person. We have boundaries in this friendship, and we've communicated those. We know what we feel good with, what we don't feel good with. And that needs to be discussed with your spouse and in your friend group. That's an okay conversation to have.
Yeah. And I like the example that you brought up about if Josh and I are fighting or we're arguing about something and he comes to you, that I know you have my best intention, and you're not going to feed into his anger or frustration, but you are going to allow him to get it out. And then you are going to help him see from a female perspective what I might have been thinking or feeling, because that is really important, in my opinion, in psychology wise, of why you have to have opposite sex friendships. You do. They offer a unique perspective. First of all, they allow you to reduce sexist attitudes and stereotypes because you get to know somebody from the opposite sex. And maybe you came from a family where men or women were not very present, and so they were bashed or seen as sexual objects. And then you have a male or female friendship. Those stereotypes and those sexual attitudes start to diminish. They start to disappear. It also allows you to have valuable perspectives, and it enhances emotional growth. So the same thing is true when I am fighting with Josh. I know I've come to you, Eric, I'm pretty sure, and I've been like, I'm so frustrated with Josh. right? I'm pretty sure I've done this probably a couple of times.
Yeah. And I'll be a listening ear for sure for that. But then I won't feed into it, obviously.
It's probably because I never do anything wrong, I'm guessing.
You're pretty good, Josh. But you and your Irish goodbyes that you fortunately ditched a while back.
That's a whole nother
The
episode.
best friend can confirm that you mess up a lot, Josh.
We all do. We all do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But I do want to say this, and I gave the example of not allowing Josh to just bash you and not hold him accountable. I'm offering the exact same thing to him that I offer to you
Yeah.
as my as my person. So
Absolutely.
technically, he might be my brother and not my sister, but the type of friendship that I'm offering is going to mirror what I offer you. I'm going to listen. I'm going to hear him out, but I'm also going to say, hey, here's another perspective, or here's how you can love Jamie through this, or here's what you can do to work on yourself. I'm going to give you that exact same advice, Jamie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing that just popped into my brain when you were talking was the accountability that you are holding Josh to in those conversations. Yes. But there has been some times in my life where I've had some dark moments. And I do know for a fact that Josh has reached out to you and he was able to share his heart and share his worry and share his anxiety about Jamie's just really struggling in this moment or this time in our life. And he would not have been able to talk to me about it. So I'm thankful that he can talk to a female about it and share some of that burden to get a different perspective, but also possibly to get some ideas of how to help me better.
Yeah, right. Because I know you well.
Yeah.
And I think as we've talked about friendship, part of being a good friend is knowing one another. We all want to be known. But if I want to be a good friend to you, I have to take the time to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know you. I think there's times when we've been in situations and I'm like, oh, I bet you're feeling like this right now. Like, I remember pulling up behind you in the car line.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And
One
of Jamie's pet peeves is when people don't pull all the way up to the front of the line and they park right in front of the school. It's a very short line for us to be in. So if you're not pulling up, you are limiting the amount of people that can drop their kids off.
Three cars that can fit there. Come on, people, your kids can walk to the door.
Yeah. So I was behind her one time and this person did not pull up, and I texted her immediately. I'm like, how upset are you right now?
And I was just like, they need to put up signs. There should be somebody out there waving the cars to go. Anybody who lives in our community, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. And if you are the person that pulls up to the door,
shame on you.
I'm sorry. It is frustrating to me.
Then to session.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, I think as we wrap things up, I want to emphasize the main objective of this talk is to illustrate what a healthy dynamic looks like between men and women, but with the emphasis of brotherhood and sisterhood. When we can look at one another as family members, that shifts everything. There's a safety, there's a security. We're letting go of this cultural pressure that basically assumes sex is a part of every relationship. And I mean, dang it, Freud, you could probably talk a lot about Freud.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I could talk a lot about that whole situation.
But I think that when we are teaching our kids even to look at members of the opposite sex through the lens of family, brotherhood, and sisterhood, that we can start training them at a young age, not necessarily on what not to do, but how we can love one another in these God-honoring relationships.
Yeah. And I do want to give the guys a chance to say any ending thoughts. But before we do that, I do want to talk about 4 key things. So if you are thinking, oh, I can't have a relationship with the opposite sex, or maybe you do, and sometimes it feels a little weird, there's really 4 things in my mind that you should put into the relationship, right? You have to have a mutual respect for each other, of who that person is, where they are in their life. Also, a mutual respect for what other relationships they have. You have to know the person and the relationship that they have with other females or their wife or their husband and vice versa. You have to have clear boundaries within that, which Heather and I have both talked about tonight. We talk about that all the time. We love boundaries. People got to get used to hearing the word no. You got to have boundaries. And maybe that boundary in an opposite sex friendship is for you, you just aren't going to go have a cocktail with them at the bar. I mean, that's okay if you're not there yet.
Yeah, I might even say going out and having alcohol with a member of the opposite sex alone probably isn't a good idea. I think when you and Eric were having that drink, we were all in the same place and we were at a wedding. And so I think there was a safety there because we were all together. But I think too, and you might even disagree with that, but I think this is where we can also say everybody's boundary might look different. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do disagree with you. However, everybody's boundary, I can't agree with that, can look different. But the other flip of that is everybody's boundary might look different because of where they are in their romantic relationship. So you have to keep that in consideration. If I am friends with a male and they're struggling in their marriage, I'm probably not going to freaking go to the bar and have a drink with them.
Right.
That's probably a bad idea. You need to keep that in consideration.
That's where you want to be self-aware, but otherness aware as well.
And so the third thing is you have to be honest. I might say to that male friend, listen, dude, I love you, but I know you're struggling in your relationship or your partnership, and I can't go out with you and have a beverage right now because I feel like that might mess up our friendship or it might make me feel uncomfortable. And then the last thing is just managing expectations, which kind of fits in everything else. So, gentlemen, is there any closing words, stories you would like to share?
Eric, what is the thing that you value the most about Jamie's friendship?
I think the thing that I appreciate most about Jamie is her authenticity and truthfulness. She could care less if she hurts my feelings. She's going to call me out. And honestly, and I know her intention, and that's just to make me a better person. And she loves me and cares about me. And so I think that has to be at the hallmark of, any relationship, I suppose, or, even if you're getting criticism, I think realizing that, you have to accept it out of love.
Yeah. And sometimes that's hard to do because it's easy to take offense. But I feel like when I have called you in or when you've called me in, we've done a pretty good job of not taking offense. And we even talk about that sometimes when we're calling each other in. Like, I'm doing this out of love because I care about you and I value our friendship and I want you to be a better person. I want you to be a better husband.
Yeah, I agree.
I think too, it's okay to say that when we're calling somebody in, we can speak truthfulness, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't care about hurting someone's feelings. You might have hurt feelings only because you're like, oh gosh, I didn't realize that I was hurting you. So you might struggle with that discomfort. But I think when we're speaking truth in love, it's not coming from a place of, I don't care about your feelings. It's just, I'm going to take a chance and a risk and speak the truth, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think, it's the complete opposite. It is, then you feel loved because you respect that person. And I think that only closing thought I would have is that building that relationship with you has taught me that, and it's opened that opportunity for me to have even more sister relationships in my life. And I think that's one thing that the four of us have really helped each other with and grow. And we couldn't have done it without having those, brother, sister, cross gender relationships.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yes, I do.
Well, this was a great talk. Thank you to Josh and Eric for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sure that they will be back.
Maybe to talk about marriage.
Yeah. Bump and all the stuff that comes with marriage, everybody, because we will.
Yep.
But thank you. Thank you for listening. If you were not listening with your partner, and if you are a female and you are married to a male, maybe you should suggest that he listens to this.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you are a male listening and you have a female partner, and maybe you should tell her she should listen. Or a male, female, because let's be honest, sometimes we all get a little jealous and bent out of shape when our partners are friends with people.
Yeah, right. And I'm hoping that this will at least open up an honest discussion with your partner, because if it's something that you've never talked about, it needs to be discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, listeners, again. And I just want to remind you, if you are not following us or like us on our social media platforms, please do so, because then you will be updated when an episode drops. Till next time.
See you later.
Peace out.